He'd also concluded that if this were the case, his agent's cover was blown, and Sarouche would therefore be of no further use to him. But Will needed the meeting to take place in order to be sure. And regardless, his man was going to be protected.
"Why do you think they chose New York for the meeting?"
Sarouche's words were hushed and quick. Will looked around and then back at his agent. The correct answer to this question, he suspected, was that the Iranians knew that Sarouche was a Western spy and wouldn't agree to meet in a non-Western city.
"You're now an entrepreneur who does a lot of business in the States. They're trying to minimize inconvenience to you."
Sarouche's expression seemed to harden.
"I'm not so sure."
Will checked his watch and smiled.
"Are you prepared to go through with this or not?"
Sarouche looked blankly at him for a while, but then shrugged.
"You know me too well."
"I do."
The two men became silent. The rain hit their faces with increased intensity. Will drew a deep breath and spoke quietly.
"When you're on Gapstow Bridge at the north end of the pond, you won't be able to see me because I'll be hidden. But if you look directly south across the pond, you'll be looking at my approximate location. I'll be 180 meters from you, and will be monitoring you and your meeting through binoculars."
Sarouche turned back toward Will. He angled his head.
"And your friends?"
"You may see some of them, but they won't look out of place. And if anything happens, they will react with absolute speed, aggression, and precision."
"British Special Forces?"
"Yes, but men who've been given further, specific covert operations training by my service."
The spy nodded.
"And straight back to your hotel after the meeting?"
Will also nodded.
"Exactly as we discussed. I'll meet you there for your debriefing."
Sarouche looked pensive.
"But if they want me to go with them?"
"Under no circumstances. You have your meeting and then part company with them."
Above all else, Will couldn't allow his man to fall under the control of the Iranians. He had far too many secrets in his head, secrets which, if exposed, could severely damage the West's ability to counter hostile Iranian activity.
"All right."
Sarouche seemed happy with Will's response. Sarouche then suddenly took one of Will's hands between two of his own.
"We've been through so much together."
Will looked down at his hand with surprise. He felt a deep pang of uncertainty, but didn't show the emotion. Instead he said,
"Indeed we have, my friend."
Sarouche smiled, and for a moment, Will suspected that the man could read his thoughts. Sarouche gripped his hand, exhaled, and released his hold. His smile faded.
"If anything happens, you'll take care of my wife and kids, yes?"
"Nothing will happen," Will sighed. "But if the need ever arose, of course, I'd make sure your family was supported."
This above all else was true. Sarouche smiled and nodded. He pointed a finger at Will, and then gently touched its tip against Will's chest.
"I remember the first time I met you. I remember thinking that I'd never met a man as scary and ruthless as you. But over the years, I've come to realize that there is a very different side to you. A side you often try to hide. One that is full of depth and compassion."
A look of sadness replaced the smile.
"But I also know that you tread a very solitary path."
Will frowned.
"Perhaps you know me too well."
Sarouche shook his head.
"I would have to live to a very old age to fully understand you, and I'm not convinced that I'll ever reach such an age."
Sarouche waved slightly, then turned abruptly and walked off in the direction of Central Park's Gapstow Bridge. Will watched him for a moment, pondering the other man's words. Then he sighed and pushed aside all thoughts besides those he needed to focus on the meeting. He reached into his overcoat pocket and pulled out a cell phone and a Bluetooth earpiece, which he fixed into position. He pressed one number on the phone handset and spoke.
"Sarouche is on his way. He should be at the location in 10 minutes.
Then he took off at a run. He darted into a cluster of trees and brought himself to an abrupt stop before swiveling around and dropping down to a crouch. He brought his binoculars up to his eyes
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.